Go out to LA. The new anthem. California Love Part 2. One time. To live in LA. West side, west side, west side. To live in LA, where everybody try to fatten their pocket. So many hustle for the cash, so it's hard to knock it. Everybody got their own thing, currency chasing. Worldwide through the hard times, worrying faces. Shed tears as we bury brothers close to heart. What was a friend?
Well, hello. God bless you, community family, and welcome to Gang Talk with Sister Herron and our different-looking Skip Townsend tonight. Okay, God bless you, and thank you for listening. If you are, and we encourage you to, because this is a very important topic for our community, and we've been faithful to this talk since 2009. So God bless you once again, and welcome to Gang Talk. And I was teasing about our co-host because, you know, Skip has been with us for quite a few years in this work at the mic talking about this. And he's very busy, and I forget, I'm sorry, I have to apologize, that February is one of his most active months, in that tonight they have their basketball game. And the focus this year is on anti-bullying. We're trying to find our kids ways to manage bullying, from political bullying all the way down to law enforcement bullying, all the way down to the schoolyard bullying. So we have a lot of bullying issues as a people we need to discuss. So that's the purpose of the basketball game. February is generally the month when Skip does this, from cleaning corners to having sporting events. He's actually brought Chris Brown and his basketball team, Team Breezy, to Locke High School to play against LAPD. So he does things like that. And this is one of the reasons why we love Skip so much, is we love all of our guests, because these are people that are really committed to this work. And it's a great joy and pride to share this hour with them. So before I get started, because I'm going to introduce him myself tonight, I want to thank Smooth Love, Dave Love, our precious ambassador. I'll call him our ambassador with the Los Angeles Police Department. And Dave Love, as I said last week, has become our translator. He translates for us with them, and then he translates back with us from them. So Dave has a very important role, and unfortunately, in my aggressive history, LAPD really doesn't let me talk to him anymore. Okay, so to have Dave in the studio last week was quite a treat, and we just wanted to show you that we're not just a one-dimensional focus, that we try to have access to everybody we need to have access to. So with that being said, I want to thank our guests for coming tonight, because we had a very specific agenda, and I'm going to start with our replacement in the co-host seat tonight, and that's the Kevin Twin Orange. Yes, we're so honored to have him here. And then we have our street soldierette, Denise Hall, who has been faithful and fierce in this walk too. And then we have Jaime Rare Breed Gregory, who is, as you can see, in the attire that carries our message. He's become a walking billboard. Show the side of your hat. He put it on "Let Me Live" on that side of the hat, so as people drive down the street, pass him, and want to do harm, they ought to be able to look up at that cap and see that he is not a participant in any horror. So thank you guys for coming. I'm so grateful that you're here tonight. So let's start with ladies first. Okay. You can introduce yourself again. Tell us anything a little bit about what you'd like for us to know.
Okay. So
speak into the mic.
I am Denise Hall. That's my name. Denise Hall. I am a community activist and have been probably since birth. I just didn't know it. I am originally born and raised in Compton. I'm a member of Ceasefire. I am case manager in the heart of South Central on 109th in Vermont at Fathers and Mothers Who Care, where we service the entire community with whatever they need with free services. And then, oh my gosh, there's so much.
Yes, you're advocate in the domestic violence arena too.
Yes.
So we respect that. Our folks, our friends, do so many things in this level. It's not just gang prevention. It's having a place to come to if you've been impacted in negative ways, and we're trying to be a resource for that.
Yes.
So thank you for that.
Absolutely.
Yes. Twin?
Oh, yes. Good evening. But once again, I'm stepping in. I'm sitting in Skip Townsend's seat, so I'm going to start off by, thanking God for letting me be here today. Because I know there's some words he always use. Mm-hmm. And for myself, my name is Kevin Orange. I'm also known as Twin, humbly known as Twin. And I look at myself as I'm a person that going back to the community to restore order and inform the community about the trauma that's been plaguing us for over 30, 40 years and reducing violence by any means necessary, without damaging the community, but uplifting them and empowering them.
I'm sorry, I forgot to mention, he will get me, Minister Tony Muhammad is my minister. I'm also a sister with the Nation of Islam and a faithful member of West Angeles. So we all work together to get it done.
Yes, we do. We do.
Yeah.
Amy?
It's a pleasure to be here always to dialogue about something that can bring about change. I started off in the community as a voice for the movement, music for the movement as a gospel rap artist, and then I became a peace advocate through Ceasefire, and then it extended to doing many things with different groups, from outreach coordinator with Hip Hop Church LA, now working with Mayor Garcetti with the GRID program with Twin, crossing barriers east side to the west side, just really trying to bridge those gaps and be about peace in my community.
Yes, and people like me are so grateful to find you, really. I've been on this hunt since 1988. I tell people quite candidly that was the year of my birth in this work, and it was with the killing of a 13-year-old, broad daylight, Charlotte Austin Jordan's daughter, and it was in execution. Those two girls were executed. Her driver was 18, she was 13, and they were executed in a gangland style. And so I had become immediately concerned because Jimmy was friend and classmate to one of our children. And so that grief came into our home the same time that baby was killed. And I had to recognize it because that was at that time that my own child made their decision to align with the gang controlling our neighborhood. So it became, as a parent, a fear walk for me because they were crossing over into another territory to go to school, and presented themselves as a walking target, dressed from head to toe in the colors of our neighborhood. So that was my awakening, and I had to pay attention because they were shooting in our neighborhood. We have bullet holes in our home. People have died on that block. And so I say this all the time. What we went through is a pattern that happened all over our communities. But tonight, we came here for a very special purpose. And let me say this. These three here have been in this work for a very long time. They're not new. They didn't just come into town yesterday and start this morning. They've been at it a long time. And what brought us here today was actually the recent killing or death of 16-year-old Anthony Weber by the LA sheriffs. And that's what brought us all together, because we see that as an unjust homicide, another one in law enforcement. And we actually came to discuss that tonight. So, Denise, you and all three of you were there when Franklin was killed. 3-year-old Franklin was killed. Yes. And as hard as that was, then 2 weeks later, We're
Not
back
even 2
together.
weeks.
It's not,
Not
2
even
weeks.
2
Is it?
weeks.
Yeah.
We were still.
In the mic, honey.
We were still organizing and embracing that family.
Right.
I don't even think we had met the family yet. At that time, it was like real fresh. It had happened the night before, and then maybe not even a week later,
Okay.
Anthony was murdered.
Yes, because Jaime, you were out
Yeah.
planting trees Saturday
Yes.
for Franklin.
Yes, in Long Beach with LaWanda Hawkins with Murder for Justice for Murdered Children.
Yes.
And they planted a lot of trees in like blocks. It wasn't just one block, one street, one tree. It was a lot of trees that people are gonna go back to, and just nurture it, and then pay homage to their people that have been lost. I even put my brothers on one of the trees because they had so many trees going on up there, and it was a good thing. A lot of people came together. A lot of people that mourn losses came together, bonded, gained new friendship, new support.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
It was amazing to me because as they were planting the tree, we were, I want to say, mounting up because that's what we did.
Well, I was going to say
we were mounting up
because
to march.
He started that day planting trees for Franklin.
Yes.
Then we met. All three of us met on the block where Anthony Weber was killed.
Yes.
Preparing for that march. So I'm just saying that this frontline soldier was out on the morning.
Yes, he was.
Kevin's been out on working since 7 a.m. today. You see, so these folks really are doing the work. They actually are boots on the ground in our neighborhood doing the work. And as difficult as it is, we need to thank them. Thanks the three of you for your commitment to trying to make a change. And Twin, I believe I'm pretty sure we discussed you last week. If you wanted to give us a little backstory of what turned you around, if you'd like to share that.
It's nothing I can really put my finger on that really turned me around. This was a process of things that occurred in my life negatively that end up bringing out the positive. It can make things positively. I mean, 'cause after being shot 8 times and then losing my father and then losing my brother and my cousin at a kind of like vigil.
Right.
So, but God had showed me before then that he was going to take my brother. I used to have these dreams and thinking it was selfish for me to be having these dreams about him. But when it happened, I couldn't do nothing but give God the glory. Because his word is true to fact. He is who he say he is, and so it's just a realization of me really connecting with him.
Yes.
But one thing I want to talk about, I don't want to lose focus on the young ladies that lost their lives during the middle when the 3-year-old was murdered.
Yes,
Because
sir.
we left that
Yes,
3-year-old murdered and we had to go to Candlelight Vigil on Florence
Yes.
and Western
Right.
Yes.
from a young lady that was pregnant.
Yes.
And lost her life and the baby, as well as the lady that was shot in the car.
Yes.
14-year-old.
Right. So we
Yes.
can't forget about the lives that was lost, all during that period of time.
At the same time.
Yeah. So we've been actually busy in South LA.
Yes. Well, the sad reality is that we're here for Anthony Weber.
Yes.
We're here for 3-year-old Franklin. We're here for the 14-year-old girl. I don't even have that baby's name yet. But somebody shot and killed her, and her last words to her mom was, "Mom, I've been hit. I think I'm going to die."
Yes.
And whoever shot her mom too.
Right.
You see, so we're caught in the rock and the hard place between the killers that would drive up and kill our children and the law enforcement that will kill them because they think you have a gun. They don't know. They don't know. And too many of them have been killed running away.
Yes.
That's the problem
Out
we're
of
having
fear,
with them.
though.
Running
That's
away.
what they don't understand is, I hear law enforcement every time on the news, in the paper, he ran. He ran because our communities are afraid.
Yes.
Right.
They are scared to death.
Yes.
They're
Yes.
scared, and to have to live in that type of fear
Yes.
is
It's too
is
much
a
pressure.
job in itself, because it comes with anger management. It comes with depression. It comes with suicide. I have never seen the amount of people coming into my office, homeless, and just traumatized.
Traumatized,
not
yes.
by the drugs. They're not traumatized by the drugs. They're not traumatized by homelessness. They're traumatized by the treatment
Yes.
that they're getting or not getting in our communities. And it's sad.
Yes, it is sad, but we hear about a 16-year-old that was murdered by law enforcement.
Yes.
And the stark contrast that I was discussing before we got on the air was how we have just had a horrific campus tragedy just yesterday in another state across the country. And the amazing thing is many fatalities that were attached with that. And I'm going to go back to the 9 church members in Charlotte that were killed in their sanctuary. And in both of these occasions, with the killing of the members, the church members, to the young man who killed 17 people, injured 15. Some of those 15 are in critical condition. They may expire.
Yes.
That death the number may climb. But the distinction is they were able to capture these men and take them into custody.
Delicately.
Okay, delicately. But they took them into custody knowing that they're responsible for multiple homicides. Now you compare that to Anthony Weber, who shot no one.
Right.
There's still no proof that he had a gun.
He did not.
Okay, but law enforcement took him out like he was a terrorist threat to them. To them. And so we haven't even resolved that yet. We haven't gotten the coroner's report yet to find out just what went on. But I'm just bringing up the distinction in the way our people are treated versus the way others receive that kind of treatment. 2 known shooters get arrested. One 16-year-old kid in my neighborhood running from the police gets dead.
But don't forget, they were armed.
Who was armed?
They were heavily armed.
Who was armed?
With the 2 that were arrested.
Oh, you're talking about
they were heavily armed.
Those multiple shooters. Yes.
Heavily armed.
Heavily armed with terrorist type weapons.
Multiple bullets.
Okay. And this is the thing that troubles us. If that man is running away from you, why is it necessary for you to kill him? That's the part that I don't understand. And to have law enforcement say to us, well, we're not allowed to shoot the wound. Then what do you go to the firing range for? To just be sure that when you fire that weapon, you make that kill shot? I mean, is that really all you're telling us?
That's
Get in this, honey.
That's a fact.
I think it goes back to remember we went to the simulation training and we got a better understanding of what law enforcement deals with day to day. Going through that and then going through my own trauma in the community and knowing what it took for me to deal with community members and survive and have to have a pistol and think I needed a pistol to survive. I got a better understanding than the other people that haven't lived in the streets. And it's a different respect that I got. I understand law enforcement has to have a certain kind of training, but they need a training on the tactics of that environment. They get a regular LAPD training. They don't get a training of this is the concrete jungle. This is what we deal with day to day. We got bodies falling over here, opposed to when you get stationed somewhere else in another community where you don't have the police shootings like you do week to week, week in, week out. It's a different environment out here that you got to be trained for. It's a different you have to talk to us. You got gang intervention workers that's professional now. We used to just be people that was passion that became a purpose. Now we got professionalism behind what we do. We got certificates. We got a lot of documents behind what we doing, saying we know what we doing. And you have to have these dialogues with us. You got to have these conversations with us. You got to stop looking at us like we can't help you when you out in the streets. The sheriff relationship is bad. It's almost little to none.
Yes.
You got tools. You got tools and fuse, and we had to break barriers with LAPD, and that's what we need to do now. We did that through several different things from ceasefire to even our peace ride for going on 5 years. We had a lot of resistance from them, but now they sporting our flags, they pushing peace, they playing with kids, they eating food off our barbecue pits. That stigma right there got killed, and we need to continue to kill the stigma. And if these people don't want to kill that stigma, then they have to be removed from that law enforcement agency because they're not there to protect and serve.
Yes. Well, that's my concern with the sheriffs. And I'm not going to just give LAPD a pass because in the summer of 2016, they killed 4 young men under 18. All 4 of them were under 18. They killed those 4 men in 3 months.
Yes.
In 3 months. So that was a major step backwards for them in our community. And the sad thing is they killed them with no word to us. No explanation. No, hey, we were justified. No, nothing. They just killed those 4 men and moved on.
But we still get progress, even though those particular ones are the bad apple in a bunch. We still can have table dialogues.
Well, let me say this. When you say bad apple in the bunch, do you have the evidence they were bad apples? Did the police have the evidence? See, my concern here, these 2 men that were captured were killers. They were identified murderers. That one fit the description, and that police officer from another agency, another community, found him walking on the road and took him into custody. Whereas Anthony Weber, somebody reported somebody with a gun. Somebody reported somebody with a gun. All right. He fit the description. He takes off running, and he's dead.
Right.
But he actually didn't fit the description.
Okay, but see this. But this is a scenario that the sheriff tell you he fit the description. That's why we was chasing him. You know that's what they're gonna say, Denise.
Okay, I believe that whoever they would have run up on at that moment,
there it is,
would have been that victim.
That's really what I'm trying to get at.
He was the first one they got to.
If our young men are perceived to have guns, because that's what the 4 shootings in 2016 was about. All of them had guns. Really? But we don't have any evidence because you closed the door. You closed the door to us having any dialogue about it. You see? And so those are major disrupts in our trying to work these things out. And so I want to get to the meeting.
Yeah.
I want to get to the meeting that night because that was pretty horrific, very emotional. Very, very emotional, not only for the family, but even the instigators that show up and, that once in a while I want to holler about the injustice. And
Yeah, well, like I said, Anthony, that's kind of personal to me. And that's why I like holding myself responsible because there was nothing I could do or say to him that deterred him.
But see, you knew him. Yes. See, this is what our listeners don't know because they weren't at the meeting. But Twin
had a personal relationship with him.
He had a personal relationship.
And my cousin
with
had a better relationship than I had with him. So he just was a typical teenager. You know what I mean? And his father did everything he had in his power to make sure his kid wouldn't meet his fate this way. I never in a million years he thought he would lose his child through law enforcement. But it's like how many other young men is trouble like that? Even though that's what they labeled the white boy that killed somebody, he was troubled. But Anthony is considered a thug.
Yes.
And it's like in that community, it's like a lot of unresolved trauma that these kids deal with. So just because they deal with their trauma differently than someone up in from the valley, they call them thugs. And it's not fair. He's a 16-year-old African-American male, living in South Central. Living in South Central.
And that's the label right there. South Central, you a thug. That's the bottom line. Compton, you a thug.
Yes. Right. They have an automatic right to shoot and kill you. That's automatic. It's just not even a consideration. It's not a second guess. It's like, no, if you run, we're going to kill you. And the tragedy for me, in the March Saturday, I went to the local chicken fast food place, and just as you were coming up the block, and the little young girl in the window asked me, do you know what that's all about? And I said, yes. I had my ceasefire cap on.
Yes.
So, in uniform. And I told her, I said, yes, it's for the 16-year-old that was killed by the sheriffs. And the young Hispanic girl tells me, I've been teaching my son because he's afraid of the police too.
Wow.
And I've told him, don't move, just do what they tell you, and put your hands behind your back. It's like, oh no, oh no,
that.
my hands went straight up. It's like, no, don't tell him that.
Right.
You got to make sure his hands are in front.
Right.
If you tell him don't move,
Right.
make sure his hands are in front and empty.
Yes.
Where they can see that they're
Yeah.
empty. But if he put his hands behind his back, it would
Yes.
kill your baby.
Yes.
And to have to tell a stranger, a young mother, that truth about her own child, she was so grateful. She was so grateful because she thought she was telling him the right thing.
Ain't that something?
And a mother loves her sons just like Anthony's mother loved him.
Yes.
You know, we really have to tell our kids what to do in these scenarios.
And it's sad, and I'm sorry to break in, but it's sad. The sad part is that we even have to do
Yes.
that
Yes.
Right.
with someone
Right.
that is supposed to serve
And
and protect us.
yes. Yes. That's
That
the
are
hard
now
truth.
deemed unreliable.
Right.
Yes. They're not protecting
That's
us.
the sad part.
I'm not sure who those sheriffs were protecting in Anthony's neighborhood,
Right.
but they weren't protecting him.
Right.
You know.
Yeah, it's a situation. I'm listening. I'm thinking. I think about my own situations. Where I could have been shot. Where the officer said, "I think you got a gun," just to make it look good, and easily my life could have been took. It done happened to us several times, living in the streets. What I've learned to do is be slow to listen. Slow to speak. Quick to listen, and really not go out there with my rage. I'm so angry. I want to slow down and do something right. I want to go out there and have a dialogue. I want to give you a chance to be heard, and so I could respectfully be heard in the same token. And we got to start doing that. We got a lot of a lot of community groups that come out there and they emotions take over their reality of what's going on. And the reality is we need to have a dialogue with these people. We need to utilize the power that we got. Right. We need to create those numbers that's going to be more powerful. And if you got a different method to the madness, I got to respect that to a degree, and we got to have a dialogue on this stuff. And we got to stop doing this stuff in front of the other people and having these fallouts. Yes. We got to do better as a people. And a lot of times we look for change amongst the people that we trying to change, but we have to change the people that's pushing for the change.
Yeah. Yeah.
We don't even have intervention meetings amongst peacekeepers. And we have so much conflict amongst peacekeepers. So in order for us to create a deeper dialogue, we got to do better amongst ourselves. We got to be able to go, okay, well, ceasefire, our method is this, so let's go over here and sit with this coalition and let's regroup with them. Let's dialogue with them. Let's see what ways out better and respectfully move on that. Until that happens, we going to be a mess out here.
Yeah, now, we can,
and the community sees that, man.
Right, and talk about the town hall meeting we had. We got to tell them we was inside of a church.
Yes.
And the words that was being spewed out was like we was outside the alley.
Behavior.
Yes.
The family I get.
Right.
The family I get that.
Right. The family's emotion.
So we look at the gang lifestyle. It's no more protocol.
Right.
The little homie can't listen to the big homie no more. Right. So in a peaceful dialogue, in the way the politics ran, those people that are not with the church don't respect the church no more.
Right.
When they used to respect the church, even though that's not their get down, I'm still going to respect this church. I'm not going to defame the church. I'm not going to disrespect them. I'm not going to talk in this manner with them. But they doing that now. So they're telling each other in the front of this other person, the others, that we don't respect each other. So how are they going to dialogue with us peacefully and respectfully if they see we don't even respect ourselves?
Right. Yes.
Well, I found it very frustrating, because I understood the emotions of the family. I had no problem with it. But it was the disruptors that just hate all the time. Every time they show up, they're trying to outshout somebody.
Yes.
And it's really not to help. It's real for personal attention.
Yes.
They're trying to make themselves be seen and heard. And that's such a disservice to the family that's grieving that came to get answers. And the truth about that meeting with the sheriffs, it was too soon for answers.
Yes.
They didn't have any answers. They just
never
started
will.
this investigation.
Right.
And, we
I don't even
cannot
think the
let
investigation
them.
was open at that point.
Well, let me say this. We cannot let them just walk away from this.
Right.
And the one thing we want from them is accountability.
Yes.
That's the thing that should have been pushed that night.
Right.
We want accountability. We're going to stay on this till we get some answers. You see, that's not the message that they heard.
We should have
It's not the
created a
message.
dialogue to have a follow-up.
Yes.
That even though it was early, we should have agreed that it was early.
Yes.
But at this point, this where we at, this where y'all at, and this where we're going to come to terms at later on down the line because
Yes.
it takes this much time to get to this
Yeah.
point A to point B. So we need to have that understanding. And if you out there just, like I said, pushing on emotion, if you yelling and screaming, you're not there for answers.
Yeah,
Right.
you're not there for answers.
Every conflict that I've seen, if a person is yelling and screaming, that person don't have his data lined
Right.
up.
No.
You know, you got to have data and statistics to be out there to even speak some kind of peace. Because if you don't have nothing behind you historical to say, well, in the future this happened and this is what's going on, you just got people blurting out stuff saying this person is a
How
snitch, this
angry
person
they
is this,
are.
that, and
Yeah.
other. And I don't operate like that.
No.
And we come from a way different
Right.
dynamics.
Yes.
And we got to get back to that.
Well, I can say one thing, with the commission that was there at the town hall meeting, they did hear what I was speaking about. So they contacted me the next day and wanted to set up a small little setting with the family and have some dialogue with them. Also, the brother of Anthony did meet with the captain that's over the Westmont area, Captain Tardy,
Yes.
and they had a discussion. So, what she's going to invite them in, and they're going to have a discussion. See what they can tell them. But she did apologize to the family. She said she was sorry for their loss. She mentioned, she told them that.
Yes.
And so when she was talking to the brother, he was turned up all the way, and she like, why are you at a 10 talking to me? Like, I'm trying to talk to you. But she was so gracious enough because she addressed him. She looked at him as her own son.
Yeah.
And so she broke him. And she said, well, I'm willing to, she said, you talked to him. She said, I'll talk to you anytime.
Okay.
Gave him a card and they met and
That's
talked,
good.
so they're going to be sitting down with the family, probably after the funeral, and we're going to have some dialogue. It's not going to be nothing big and drawn out, impactful, where the parents, where the mother and father, brothers can get whatever's on their chest, get it out.
Yes.
Because the healing have to start.
Yes.
And it starts with the family.
That's
Yes.
right.
That's the
That's
priority
really where
for
it
them.
starts with the family. All of us that came to the meeting are just extra stuff that really didn't need to be there.
Yes.
But we're trying to make sure the family gets the accountability they deserve.
Exactly.
And that's the bottom line we
Right.
want from
Yes.
law enforcement.
And the
We
same
want
thing with the 3-year-old.
accountability.
We want to get with the sheriffs
Yes.
about that too.
Yes.
Whatever's just needs to happen. I'm not saying justice, they need to be arrested. That might not be just for them. But whatever the case may be, we want to push for that. We don't want to be biased towards people because at the end of the day, we lost that 3-year-old boy,
Yes.
and we lost 2 people that had guns. That's powerful young black men that was misguided.
Yes.
People always like to be mad at the gunners. Those people, I feel sorry for those gunners.
Something took place
I'm
for
going to
that
be the
happen.
devil's advocate on this one. You see, because these men, both of them had guns.
Right.
Both of them had guns. So when you have a gun, you're already expecting that you may have to use it. All right. Now, because you already know what the scenario is, and you know that you're in a liquor store beefing with somebody has to be the man and walk away. And that night,
That
they
didn't
weren't
happen.
acting like men.
Right.
And Franklin, 3-year-old Franklin, paid the price for that. I'm not excusing these shooters because that baby paid the price for their foolishness.
Right.
And this is the problem I'm having, Jaime. I don't want to be judgmental. But Franklin is still dead. What's he guilty of? You see, you, the one that instigated the shooting, the one that was riding in the car with Franklin and his mother,
Yes,
you're the first
that one.
shooter. You're the first shooter.
But he's
If-
free.
Both of them are free. Both of them are free. This is a problem I'm having.
Different. No, one is not free.
Okay, well, I know the one that actually killed Franklin was surrendered.
He is in jail.
On his father's.
Right now, on a
yes,
parole
he
violation.
surrendered. But the one that instigated the shooting,
He is
he's
not.
the one that's free. He's the one that started this.
Yeah.
It's his fault that Franklin's dead.
It could have been avoided.
It could have been avoided. Had he not gone back to that car and turned around, pulling his weapon out, He could have just easily gotten in that car and driven right on out of that parking lot.
Had he was taught to walk away.
Right. Now,
All the man did was say something to him.
Right.
So what? Walk away.
So we don't even know who initiated anything. So facts was first and foremost. A lot of opinions that we have, perceptions that we have, it has to be minimized because you base everything on facts. And if you don't have the facts, there's only certain things that we can speak on. And at the end of the day, it was wrong. Yeah. It was a time and place where I would say, hey, man, I got a baby in the car, man. We going to do this another time.
There it is.
And if that person didn't respect that, then that's a different situation.
Yeah, it is.
But he didn't have that thinking process. No. And so it's so far gone to even know how to so-called thug right, if that's what you even want to call it. Right. But it was different criteria, it was different things that we, like you shooting each other in front of baby mamas and mothers and
fathers.
It's people that don't want to be involved in this.
That's right.
And if I choose at my age to not be involved with that and disassociate myself with that, you have to respect that. You can't be 25 years old asking me where I'm from, because even if you're from a rival gang that I used to be about, we don't have the same politics. We don't stand on the same thing. We don't have I'm not mad at the person you mad at. I'm not none of that no more. So you have to have that understanding. If you separate me from the generational gap of big homie, little homie, the big homie can't tell the little homie nothing, then you can't be running up on the big homie killing nobody. A 60-year-old guy got shot yesterday over there where a 14-year-old girl got shot. Right. And we don't know if that was somebody that used to be a gang member that got seen a certain way. We don't know what that is, but we lost a lot of 50, 60-year-old in the last 2 years.
And we haven't resolved the 14-year-old's death. Kevin, you want to say something?
I mean, it comes down to us as black men. We got to give these young men more to look at. I mean, because all they're seeing is negative men around them. So the positive men, we've been pushed to the back. And so they can only just operate off the things that they see. So we got to give them more, as black men.
Yes, I agree. I feel so bad because not just that Anthony's dead, but he felt his only thing was to run.
Yes.
His only thing was to run. And there's something so troublesome as a mother. What do I tell my son when the police are chasing you? Stop and put your hands up. Right. That's how you get bullets in your armpits. And we've had our sons end up that way with bullet holes in their armpits. How do you get that?
It's like we're not sure what to do. Yeah. There is no...
Right. We haven't defined the answer.
There isn't. Well, no, there just isn't. Put your hands up, you get shot. Put your hands down, you get shot. Yeah. If you lay down on the ground, you get shot. Mm-hmm. If you bend forward, you get shot.
Mm-hmm. If you move,
it doesn't matter.
If they gunning for that black life is going to be right. Exactly. It is what it is, and we have the law enforcement that will sometimes step back and allow the streets to take care of situations. But in this situation, when law enforcement took a life, they're not looking for us to retaliate on them.
No.
But you'll sit back and let a person out of jail and hope somebody will kill that dude, and then you don't have to take them to the court of law and justice like that. And it's crooked stuff like that going on. It's realistic. I'm not going to be sugarcoat nothing and say that stuff don't exist. It's a lot of crooked stuff out here existing in this law enforcement that we have to address.
Yes.
Right.
And we have to really pin down what's going on with that officer. And that's what that family needs to ask. What's going on? What's the history of that officer? What kind of group that officer hangs at within his precinct and things like that? Because it's separatist situations going on in those law enforcement. Because we were in the peace ride with Sheriff Baca in the front of the line, and officers were still pulling us over, giving us tickets. When he told them it's a green light, let them do the peace ride. Right. And so everybody has their own individuality, and it's hard to separate that. It's like if we tell the little homies, hey, we not doing that, we not shooting over there, and they go over there and shoot, they got their own mindset of what they're going to do. They develop their own group to separate from that peace group, and we had that battle against each other.
So also, going with what you said, the hiring of law enforcement, I don't know if you realize that most of the law enforcement consists of the military. that
Yeah.
had PTSD,
Yeah.
Right.
that did not go through any counseling,
Right.
that was in Afghanistan, that were in Iraq,
Yes.
and they've never got the help that they needed, and they
Right.
come here, they have to feed their family, so we're going to give you a job, and they get it off the top.
Yeah, they
Right.
do.
And what happens is you have a police force full of those that witness babies walking and running to them with bombs on them. And so they come into our communities and they look at our communities as a war zone.
As a war zone.
And they
That's a
covered
fact.
and they
Like
covered
a
by
war zone.
union.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that union
Yes.
watches they back,
Yes.
takes care of them when
Yes.
it's wrong. At the end of the day, it's not right. You don't get drug like that shooter that killed Anthony. He probably didn't get. They don't get drug tested.
No.
None of that type of stuff. But as soon as we do something, we put on the front line. We got to get dissected and broke down and everything. So
Yeah.
when does that apply to them? And that's what we got to
It does
continue to
not.
push. We've been pushing that since I've been at ceasefire table to try to get this done and get this union on board of doing what's right over, just trying to cover up for officers, trying to save their pension. If they got to lose that, it is what it is.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? This is one of the things that frustrates me. And I don't really mean frustrate because the family was upset and I felt they had a right to vent
Yes.
at that sheriff's
Yes.
show. It's the instigators that we really didn't need.
Right.
They didn't contribute anything,
Yes.
and they certainly didn't answer any policy issues.
Right.
And I've got two right here. One, we want absolute transparency and accountability to include that officer's background.
Yes.
Does he have a habitual excess force in his jacket? You see, we need to know the history of his conduct. The same way Alicia Thomas was killed by that female officer that we finally got prosecuted. What was her history? You see, I asked the question when Christopher Dorner went nuts and killed those two innocent kids because of his firing, and his whole complaint was that a female officer he was working with kicked a homeless man in the head.
Right.
Well, LAPD called him the liar and fired him. Called him the liar. But then you fast forward, you see this female officer didn't have no problem manhandling Alicia Thomas to the point where she died from that handling. She died from that. You see, so we have to, as a community, stay on them and force them. This is a problem. We've had to force them to account for their conduct. And the one thing that we got from Chief Green, because he promised, if I can't get her fired, I'm going to make sure she's not in another one of our patrol cars. So that has become a fine line detail. You shoot one time, you got to go.
Right. Yes.
We don't care where you go, but you don't get to work over in our neighborhood anymore. And that has to be a bottom line
Any act of
demand from
violence
this
from
community.
them. Any act of violence from them.
Any dead
Choking
bodies.
someone or beat someone.
Yep.
You cannot work with
Because
them.
all
That's
of
it.
it
You
happens.
got to
Yes.
go. You got to go.
Right.
Now, the third thing there, because that was number two, they got to go. Number two, where are the body cameras?
Right.
Where are these dang body cameras you've been promising us for? It's 3 years now.
Yes.
It's 3 years. Because Saturday, they had the tactical alert at the sheriff's station. They was lined up around the door.
For little old us.
For a little old us. When we was a rowdy crowd, I ain't mad about that. We came to make a noise and they made a noise. It's okay. But what I noticed in that line, at each end, they had some sheriff in uniform with a camera videotaping us.
So they can identify every last one of us
Yes.
and do what they do with us, and that's wrong.
Yeah, you got a camera videotaping us. Where was the camera on to protect Anthony? Where's that body camera? You see, and that's one of those demands that we should not leave the table until we get that resolved.
Well, do we got the law enforcement, or do we go after the people they employed under? I mean, the board of supervisors is over the sheriff's department, right?
Not really dumb.
Yeah, so that's who we need to be attacking, the city attorney's office, because if no charge is being brought up, but please don't bring up no charge. They just arrest and transport. So who is over them?
That would be the board of
Supervisors,
supervisors for
right.
LA County.
Right. And then you got the mayor's office over LAPD. Them they bosses. That's who they listen
They say
to.
the shooters investigating the shooters.
Right. We fighting against. We arguing and fussing at the wrong person.
Well, I'm still trying to get to the cameras. See,
Right.
You
Well,
know,
to get
if
the
the
mayor.
And at what
sheriff and the
point-
LAPD had
Yes.
those dang body cameras, Anthony may not be dead.
Right.
And at
Okay.
what point do your job become so hazardous that I'm not going to chase this man into this apartment complex
Yes.
because it may cost me my life?
Right.
I would have fell back, and that would have been one that got
Yes.
away on me.
Okay, yes, because it could have been
So those
kids
are the
in
things
that
you're gonna have to
courtyard,
really-
too.
That
Exactly.
was my issue.
You
It's-
shooting, and what if someone went through the house but your aim was so good, all those shots went inside that boy. So it's a lot of, like I said, it's facts that need to be put on the table.
Yeah.
It's questions about factual things that need to be answered, and it takes a clear head to sit down at the table and get these answers. If
Now,
not,
how about
it's just going.
How about this, Amy? If we had the point to where they could have called ceasefire, organization like, man, we got to call that those young men out there with a gun, and let us go over there and talk to the young man. Hey, man, whoever out here pointing guns at people, you need to stop that.
This is a perfect example of why sheriffs need to get involved with the grid.
Yes.
And we've been pushing that for years and years, and they kind of dabble in the grid program. But the grid program is effective. When we get the calls LAPD get, we have an opportunity to police our own. We got an opportunity to get our people out of harm's way. We stop we control the rumors. And we use our lights to operate in a manner that we're not acting like police. We're not being police. We're not trying to see nobody in jail. But at the end of the day, if somebody has to reap what they sow, you got to back up and wash your hands from it.
Right.
But we have so much power to do what we do.
Yeah.
I've experienced so much power of helping somebody stay out of jail.
Yes.
So I can attest to it where an officer will call me a lieutenant. I don't want to take him to jail. We don't want to suppress the neighborhood. Let me go through there and do what I could do.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so with that being said, I'm going to come with the bad stuff. So supporting the grid when it benefits them.
Yeah. Well,
They will support the grid. They will support ceasefire. They will support whatever they need to support only when it benefits them.
That's true.
And I don't want to praise grid. Don't get it wrong.
Right.
Grid has its ups and downs of it. But I'm going to utilize something that they gave me to be effective to some point to help my community.
Yeah.
I'm not going to push it out the way because that one thing. If it's 9 things right with it, I'm not going to focus on the one thing wrong with it.
Yeah.
Because it made things better for us. The law enforcement believe that. I mean, because the relationships we done created from the grid is phenomenal.
Yeah.
And so, like this morning, I had someone call and communicate me from the opposite sides that normally, 3 years ago, we wouldn't have this conversation. Yeah. But through the grid, our relationships and the trust done built to where they calling and we communicate now.
Quinn, a lot of people don't know what that grid is. They don't understand the work of it. Could you explain it for that layperson that never heard of the grid before?
The grid is gang reduction youth development under the mayor's office, and it's basically got organization that goes in these communities that was once deemed as violent. They had a lot of shootings and stuff like that, so they would deploy, instead of deploying officers over there, they put teams of intervention workers, ambassadors to go in there and start building relationships.
And former gang members.
And former gang members as well, yes, and case managers. And family
yes.
management, so we go in there and deal with rumors and deal with and identify with the so-called shooters, if they want to name it, but we have relationships with them instead of law enforcement going in there suppressing them, we go in there and do under our suppression and that's basically just having a conversation with them
Soften the blow.
Right.
Mediate.
It employs a lot of ex-gang members
that's
that never, that's unemployable. So, their past actually became good for them because now they can better facilitate their own community.
Right.
And it's also prevention components as well as intervention components in it that we need to work more together, but we do work together as much as possible. It's a lot of perimeters everybody likes to focus on. They say united we stand, divided we fall. And they divided the grid zone to over like 23 grid zones. And it almost became divided, but it's up to us that work it to keep it glued together where I have relationships with the brown community. I reach out to them because we do peace rides all through the city and we want to go to a park over there in Echo Park area, and we want to have those people standing in the gap with us saying we with that.
Right.
You know, so
Right.
that's one of the things that helped me working in the community, because now we've been in trainings with these other communities. We've had luncheons with them. We sit down and have monthly meetings amongst each other. We have dialogue, and dialogue is healthy. People don't understand. If you don't talk about it, you can't figure it out.
Right.
Well, you know, that's the essence of how we got here. Our breakdown in communication. We lost respect, your neighborhood for his neighborhood for my neighborhood. It's like we ain't going to talk about nothing because we're enemies, you see. And so that's been the hardest thing to make us as a people understand. Two things. We didn't get here overnight.
Right.
And the breakdown started when we stopped talking to each other with any kind of consideration or mutual respect. The common thread is that we're all in this together. We're all in this. Nobody's immune. Nobody of my color is immune from this threat in my community. And that goes from Compton to Inglewood, from the 10 freeway to Long Beach. Nobody's immune. Right. And to find that, because I'm really upset about Franklin. As upset as I am about Anthony, I'm really upset about Franklin because these two over 21-year-olds knew what they were doing. They could have made a different decision. And yes, I'm blaming the man that was riding with Franklin for causing his death. So, yes, the shooter, that's self-defense. But you're the instigator. Mm-hmm. You're the instigator.
He should pay a bigger price than the actual guy who killed the Franklin. He should pay a bigger price than the person who actually killed Franklin.
Exactly, for initiating the shooting.
Yes.
Because we don't know if that guy would have ever shot first, because he didn't give that opportunity. But like it was mentioned from us being on the ground with it, that dude said he had so much compassion and felt so sorry he didn't know a kid was in that car. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So despite what he does, he sounds like the kid that would have gave that pass to that other guy. Yes. And and the guy doesn't have no regards for nobody but self, because he put the girl in jeopardy. The girl could have easily been killed, as well as the baby. Yes. And a lot of people don't understand that that's not the father of the child. Right. Yes, the father of the child had to learn via social media through a family member, and then the relationship with the mother is not there. Mm-hmm. You know, and it's a lot of components that's going on with the mother that needs to be evaluated for us to say, you know, why would you even put your child in harm's way? If you're dealing with a thug, you know, that's your lifestyle. You want to be out there. Don't put your baby in that.
And to be fair, that's one of the questions I had too. Mm-hmm. Did she know that he had a gun on him? Did she know that?
I mean, that's Did she know his? That's just what it is.
From a personal relationship with the family, I'm just gonna say from my perspective, I think she know who she was dealing with.
Right.
Okay.
No, that's what it is.
All right. Well, you know, we have to be truthful about this, because you know a lot of women have been killed in the crossfire, and they know who they're riding with. Yeah. And I'm so sad to say it, but ladies, you know, you put your life in their hands, and the life of your children in their hands as well. If you're going to ride with someone that's caught up like that, that's at risk, just going into a liquor store.
Right. It's going to be emotional. Saturday is the service for him in San Diego. Mm. The family asked us to be there. Some of us that can will be there, and standing in the gap and speaking life into the situation, not trying to raise anger and more emotion, just grieving with the family and putting him to rest like we're supposed to. And after the fact, you know, hopefully ceasefire can help be that component to put them together where the law enforcement can give the family some kind of closure.
It's a tragedy. There's no question about it. It's very emotional. And folks have issues about it. They have the same issues about Franklin's killing as we have with the sheriffs about Anthony's killing. Okay? And the problem for us as a community, we're overwhelmed with tragedy, and we're fed up with it.
Yes.
Really, we're fed up with it, and we're trying to get a handle on it. We don't want our kids being victimized like those high school kids were yesterday.
Yeah, right.
You know, that's the only thing that doesn't happen in our community is mass shootings at our campuses. But kids have been killed, in close proximity. So we're not trying to do a broad brushstroke on any of this. Yeah. We're suffering from present traumatic stress disorder. Anthony Weber is a perfect example of what I'm talking about.
Yeah, right.
He's out. Wasn't there something going on that weekend? I'm not sure.
Super Bowl was that day.
Oh, Super Bowl that day,
yes.
Okay.
Exactly.
And Maxine Waters had an event going on regarding the Vermont corridor.
Yeah. But this is the problem. On a day like Super Bowl, we have a dead 16-year-old.
Right.
Instead of a drunk in custody or
right.
We had a couple shootings that day, and that was the biggest one.
Yeah.
South LA dealt with a lot of tragedy on Super Bowl Sunday. And we don't get that CNN news. You know, when the Columbine situation was going on, at that same year, my high school was doing a black and brown war where we had LAPD in riot gear on the roof.
Mm-hmm. Oh
and
my God!
We didn't make CNN news. It was so common to us where we just went on day to day like it was nothing to have police in riot gear with shotguns and bringing weapons to school and thinking you have to defend yourself. And They didn't want to. They didn't come and intervene. They didn't try to help us cope or nothing. You know, it's just you get by, you get by.
Yeah. Well, this is one of the things that I always get frustrated because, as a young man said from that school yesterday, there have been 18 school shootings this year, and it's only February. Yeah. Wow. It's only February. 18 school shootings. Okay, so everybody wants to do the gun control thing. They want to get after the NRA. And I tell you, quite frankly, the guns in my neighborhood are not registered weapons. So you all can leave us alone with that gun control until you tell us you're going to account for those guns that arrived in my neighborhood freely and abundantly, and none of them are registered. Where did those guns come from?
It's not the weapons, it's the mindset.
Right. You gotta educate each other.
You're missing my point.
Yeah.
We have the mindset, but how did we get the guns? Yeah. Okay, the guns were made available to you.
The same way we got crack.
There it is.
But if we educate ourselves on what's more, think more, you can put all the guns you want in there. It's up to us to pick it up and destroy ourselves with it.
Well, when they were first bringing it, it was exactly what you wanted.
Right.
It's exactly what you wanted, okay? Right. And they were provided for you with the hopes that you all just kill each other and we don't have to do that work for you anymore, the Klan said.
And that's a choice we shouldn't have made.
But it's a choice that came with the crack.
Yes.
Okay? And we have to look at it as a whole picture, apologize to these kids that were born out of that nightmare. Yes. And let them know we made a mistake about this.
That's why we do the work that we do now.
Yes.
Yeah.
I personally remember at 12 years old jumping on a train track and jumping inside of a train with crates of guns. With nobody running up on us or nothing. I remember that. Like clear as day. Like can't nobody tell me nothing different.
Yes.
And so I know from my own experience what the government does, what the systematic destruction in our community, what we do to each other. When I sat in prison all those years and thought that I was doing things as a man to be my own independent person, I seen I was being a puppet. When I started educating myself, I seen that I was being led astray to do the things that I did, creating genocide, killing my people to gain my own fame and my own money, financial gain and things like that. So as I got educated and learned about the history from the Black Panther movement to the George Jacksons, the Eldridge Cleavers and things like that, we have to educate our people about where we came from because they don't believe that the history that they don't know is important to them.
Right.
It is.
And once you understand that history that you came from, you have a legacy to be passed on to you. Yeah. Just like I had the opportunity last time I was here to sit with James Lawson.
Right.
That was a privilege and an honor, but also it had its good and its bad, but it didn't deter me. It gave me a lesson that I needed to learn. I learned. And we have to learn from each other. I remember being a youngster that sat at the porch and listened to the old head talk to me. And we don't have that no more. They see I'm deemed so old in my community and far from it, and they just like big homie, okay, we good, because I'm not with the function that they with, but the people that's my age that's with the function, they get to hang out with these people.
Right, they're cool.
You get to be the OG because the OGs are too old to the young people to want to listen to, and that's the truth of it. Now we've just got a few minutes left, and I wanted you to say a final word that you thought was very important. That you wanted to share.
I'll just uplift the victims that we lost this month, because this was tragic.
Yes.
You know, so I would like a voice for them to keep a flame in their name, you know, to honor them, because, I mean, they seem to be forgotten.
Yeah.
You know, and it's only been weeks that they've had their life taken. I mean, my mother that was pregnant, I mean, that's a tragedy.
Yes, it is.
So I would just like to, keep, you know, the thought of the victims that we lost.
Just
in the mic.
Don't forget them. Anthony's funeral is coming up. Baby Franklin, and just prayer.
Yes.
Just a lot of prayer, and we will do our best to try to make a change for the better for our people.
I just want to say God over everything. Understand what that is. Sit in that. Really understand. Sit still in it, and understand you don't have to be perfect to stand in change. You can have that one thought process that want to change and utilize it. That's it.
Yeah. That's all good recommendations, and I just so appreciate you coming here under these tragic circumstances. I mean, you know, bless your hearts. We deal with so much trauma.
Yes.
People don't understand the trauma you see every dang day. And for them not to support you, my whole thing is the least you could do is pray for these soldiers that come out here for our behalf. And so, community family, that's the challenge we're giving you today. You need to pray for these frontline soldiers. Pray for us all. Pray for our Anthonys. Pray for our Franklins. Pray for our 14-year-old daughters. Pray for our pregnant mothers. Pray that we end this violence against ourselves. Okay? So, God bless you. Thank you for listening.
Yes.
Thank you, Morris Media, for having us on your network. And Gang Talk will be back next week.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.